In a college, the professors usually throw 100-slide PowerPoint at us, full of dry textbook definitions and whatnot. But they fail to make us understand what is needed to be understood. This channel is built to completely fix that. Welcome to Edison. On this channel, you aren't going to see fancy smart screens, corporate editing fluff, or sterile slides. Just a pen, a piece of paper, and raw visual engineering logic explained completely from scratch. Whether you're trying to clear your university labs, ace your internals, or crack a technical interview round, we are surviving this semester together. So grab your notebook and let's make engineering intuitive. To kick off our journey, let's skip the textbook definitions and look at a real-world scenario. Imagine you're running a college hostel, and instead of a modern database, you decide to keep track of your students' room allotment using a basic text file. So let's suppose we have a student 101, and his name is Rahul. His room number is 32. That's how we stored it. And there is his phone number. Let's suppose 982347 and XXX, whatever it is. We have another allotment which is done for Shreyash. That is 35. And we write his number. Again, the same student has been allotted, or a student of the same name has been allotted another room 35. And rest all details remain the same. Now, probably in such a situation, it is very confusing for us to understand how or what does it mean. Look closely at line 1 and line 3. You have a student Rahul who has been allotted 2 rooms. Maybe one room is his hostel room and the second one maybe for some special project lab. Now, this adds to the structure the first and the massive flaw of a traditional file structure, which is called as data redundancy. Now, what do you mean by data redundancy? You have duplicate values over here. Now, what happens if Rahul changes his phone number from some day to, let's suppose, a new number as something like this? What you need to do?
You need to ensure that all the consequent mobile numbers are updated with the recent one. Now, traditionally, if a hostel warden goes and checks, he might update only the first one, and the rest may remain the same. So this leads to a second major file system bug, which is data inconsistency. Data inconsistency. That is, the data is not on top of that, anyone who walks past the warden's desk and looks at this text file can see private phone numbers. There is zero security and zero data isolation. This absolute chaos is the exact reason software engineers abandoned file and built something called as DBMS. So what is DBMS? It is nothing but it is database management system. So how does a DBMS solve this nightmare? If a student genuinely needs to occupy multiple rooms, how we do store that map without duplicating the personal details is basically we will try to derive 2 separate tables. One table will have all the stationary information which is going to not be changing at all. Okay? And the second table will have the details which are going to change. Like suppose your room number. And this would be linked towards an
And
ID
this would be
from
linked
the first table
towards
which stays unique.
ID
And in this
from
case,
the
it could
first
be
table
your
which
roll
stays
number
unique.
or the
And
roll
in this
ID
case,
which is
it
there.
would be
So
your
this
roll number
tells
or
the
the roll
correct
ID which is there.
understanding of
So this
why a DBMS
tells the
system
correct
is used.
understanding of why
Moving
a
forward,
DBMS system
As
is
the given
used.
data had two types
Moving
of
forward,
problems,
as
that
the
is
given
data
data
redundancy
had
and
two
data
types of
inconsistency,
problems,
the
that is
DBMS
data
covers them all.
redundancy and data
DBMS
inconsistency.
has
The
four
DBMS
pillars.
covers them
The
all.
four pillars
DBMS
are
has
something
four
called as
pillars.
data
The four
integrity,
pillars are something called as data integrity,
redundancy, which we just saw,
something called as data
something called as
redundancy,
data
which we just saw,
inconsistency,
something called as data
something
inconsistency,
called as security.
and
We talked about
something
security,
called
we
as
talked about data
security.
redundancy, and we also talked
We
about
talked about
data
security.
inconsistency.
We talked about
What about
data
data
redundancy,
integrity?
and we
This
also
means
talked
that
about data
the system
inconsistency.
will never
What
allow
about data
a
integrity?
duplicate value.
This means that
Integrity means
the
there should
system
not be any
will
duplicate
never
values
allow
which
a
will cause
duplicate
the
values.
problems.
Integrity means there
Now
should not
that
be
you
any
have a
duplicate
solid
values
grasp
which will
of the
cause
foundation,
the problem.
let us quickly take a glance
Now
at what
that
are
you
we going to
have
be
a
doing in
solid
this
grasp
module.
of the foundation,
So first things
let us
first, the
quickly
step
take a
1
glance
would
at
be
what
our
are
ER
we going to be
diagrams.
doing in this
That is
module.
the visual
So first
representation
things
or
first,
the
the step
visual
1
mapping
would be
of
our
how
ER
our entire
diagrams.
database
That is
architecture
the visual
looks like.
representation or
Step
the
2
visual
would be your
mapping
relational
of how
keys,
our entire database
broken down
architecture
into something
looks
called
like.
as primary,
Step 2 would be your
foreign,
relational
candidate,
keys,
and super keys. So you
broken
never
down
get
into
confused in
something called
exams.
as primary,
Step 3 would be the
foreign,
introduction
candidate,
to the
and
language
super
of
keys.
SQL,
So you never
which is a
get confused
structured
in
query
exams.
language.
Step 3 would be the introduction to the language of SQL, which is a structured query language. That is learning how to talk to a database and write clean queries from scratch. After that, we'll be moving to something called as joins. That is the favorite topic of tech recruiters, which involves using the data from 2 or more tables by simply joining them. The step 5 would be the normalization of this table. That is how to break a messy table perfectly without losing the data. And step 6 would be the simple system. That is a practical landscape, simple system with few queries. So that will be our agenda. We're going to break down every single one of these heavy engineering topics right here on this piece of paper. You're watching Edison, where we ditch the slides and make tech intuitive. Hit that subscribe button so don't miss lecture 2 on ER diagrams. Drop a comment below letting me know what semester of engineering you are currently grinding through, and let's ace this course together, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.